Hello. How fun is this to be able to spend time together here on the You've Got Nurse Series podcast? This is a place to explore practical ways to improve our health, which heightens our life experience. I invite you to join in with an open heart and an open mind to receive our guest today. I'm delighted to share with you today Phyllis Quinlan. It's so fun. Phyllis and I met at NICAP, the New York Certification Program for Applied Positive Psychology. And what's really fascinating is we kind of both identified with each other as hippie light workers. I remember that conversation. And here we are, right?
And here we are.
I know. And Phyllis, I want you to introduce yourself to people from your heart. And then we'll have a little chat about self-love, self-care, and self-regulation.
Okay. Well, again, thank you for the invitation to come on your show. Anytime to work with you, Catherine. You know that. Love partnering with you on anything. I am a nurse. I've been a nurse for the better part of 40 plus years. I am prepared at the doctorate level. I have a doctorate in healthcare administration. I am also a nurse entrepreneur. I've had my own consulting firm, MFW Consultants, now for 30 years. I celebrated a 30th anniversary in January.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I see that as a huge achievement because all of my academic preparation has been in healthcare. I never took a business class in my life, but really have enjoyed very instinctually growing that company and keeping it going. But I'm also a professional coach, and I've been a professional coach for the better part of 20 years. I'm certified by the International Coaching Federation at the professional level. And I have been practicing coaching full-time now for about 10 years and enjoying every minute of it. I have the honor of being an internal coach at a local medical center here in the New York area. And then, of course, I have my own private clients through my company. I'm also the career coach for the Perioperative Nurses Association, AORN, and also the American Nurses Association, New York State. So I get to talk to a lot of fascinating people who are professional caregivers or family caregivers every year, which is just really, a wonderful place to be in my career right now.
Well, I also want to say that the people that get the opportunity to work with you are very fortunate.
Oh, you're kind. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you.
It's true.
Thank you.
So what do you think is one of the most valuable aspects of really becoming more self-aware in the arena of self-care?
Yeah. I, again, have been practicing nursing for the better part of 40 years. And I was definitely one of the nurses who was a big proponent of the baccalaureate degree and certainly a big proponent of going on for a master's degree. And I'm very, very proud of the fact that we have 7 to 8% of the nursing population prepared at the doctorate level. I think it's a great achievement over 60 years, and I don't know of an industry or a profession other than, Silicon Valley that grew that quickly over in that short a period of time. And I'm very proud to be part of that legacy. But the recipe for success during all of that time was to get good academic preparation and certainly get a clinical certification that would, showcase your skills as being at the level of something nationally certified. And if you do those two things, clinical preparation and skills, that you're going to have a wonderful career and a good life. And I'm here to tell you that I have learned otherwise. And that there is a secret sauce there that we forgot. And that secret sauce, quite honestly, is emotional intelligence development, that knowledge and skills is not enough. And I could choke when I say that because I really advocated, again, for the baccalaureate and master's and get your clinical certification. I have 3 of them. It was just really wonderful. I was just perpetually in class and perpetually getting this and perpetually getting that. Tons of letters after my name, and still had a hard time being successful, not just in my personal life, but in my professional life, because I did not confront the fact that my emotional intelligence needed development, and I didn't even know where to begin once I realized my emotional intelligence, not my intelligent quotient, not my IQ, but my EQ, needed developing, and where to begin and how to start. And once I was able to put my arms and mind around that, do some training, taking the classes in emotional intelligence, but found out quickly that you could read about emotional intelligence. It doesn't come in by osmosis. You have to be working with someone who will hold you accountable to the things that you yourself identify need changing or enhancing. So we all indulge in habitual behaviors that no longer serve us. And that's not to say we should beat ourselves up, because the behaviors and the mindset that got you from where you were to where you are have served you well. So these things need to be honored and acknowledged, and breathe them in with a sense of accomplishment. But if you want to go to the next level in the 21st century, especially those of us who have been practicing 25 years or more, if you want to be part of the 21st century of any organization, healthcare or not, it's going to be about humanism, character, and emotional intelligence. The fact that you are academically prepared and skillful at your job is a given. What we really want to recruit to now are people who are going to have not just value by virtue of knowledge and skills, but added value by virtue of humanism, a sense of fellowship, a sense of team building, a sense of shared vision that is going to take an organization from one level to the next. And if you're able to embrace that and grow your emotional intelligence and get out of your own way, you will then have the great career and happy life that you're dreaming of.
Well, what's really beautiful about that is when you think about all of that on an energetic level, because we're all these fabulous light beings, we're all energy. And when you think about collaboration and team building and those types of things, and being open to different perspectives and different ways of doing things, and being open to new information, all of that vibrates at a much higher vibration, and in the vibration of possibility and opportunity, right? And feeling having some satisfaction in what you're doing too. And what's fascinating also is maybe this element of the process is finished, but then that opens up possibilities for another adventure along with that project as well.
Right.
And so it's a never-ending progression because things are always changing.
Right.
And what I love about what you're talking about is it does take a lot of a sense of self-awareness, being self-assured, and having that confidence to say, oh, I hadn't thought of that part yet, right? Because we don't always know everything, and we never will. And what I love about it also is the self-awareness really invites a higher level of self-care, because we also start to recognize that the commercialized version of self-care is not very effective, and it's not healthy.
In some regards, it's not. I think when, I think the basis of all self-care and to some degree mental health issues as well. And I'm not really speaking to anything with the psychosis part of mental health. I'm really speaking to the neurotic part of mental health, where, to me, the definition of neurosis is humanism. We're all neurotic to some degree. It's part of our charm. It's part of our personality. There are different things about ourselves that have us, or we have it, and we navigate in and around that. But I think we all have the ability to be introspective with courage and support. And it takes a tremendous amount of courage to, as an accomplished adult, to say, wow, I still have work to do. And it's in an area where I feel the least competent, which is myself. I can take another class and get another letter after my name, or I can do the hard work of introspection and start to say, what about this habitual behavior or mindset no longer serves me anymore? And am I going to do the work to switch that up? So that is indeed coaching. Coaching is strength-based. So when you think of emotional intelligence development, it takes courage and strength to do that. It's the ability to help someone get out of their own way, or what we say, shine light on blind spots, or give you vision where you didn't have insight before. But as far as the process of emotional intelligence development, it is the worst advertisement line you've ever heard. But when I tell people, if you want to work with me, it may feel like you're chewing on glass. Now, I don't think anybody sells a whole lot of products with that kind of advertisement. Come work with me. It'll feel like chewing on glass. And there's not a line of people behind me going, sign me up twice for that. Mm-hmm. However, the return on the investment of chewing the glass, the return on the investment when you have the courage and the strength to say, I do this, and this is how I think, and this is really causing me a tremendous amount of self-sabotage. I'm missing out on opportunities. I am showcasing myself to the world in a manner that I don't believe about myself. I think I'm this, but this is how I'm portraying myself through behavior and attitude and body language to the world. No wonder they think of me like this. And that's not who I am. If you want to switch that up so that your insides match your outward projection of who you are, your brand, if you will, then you're going to have to chew on some glass in order to get there. And it's hard work, but it's doable. And it's doable in a shorter period of time than you think. And the return on investment is one thing that everybody wants, which is peace of mind.
Absolutely. And what's fabulous about that is it doesn't take as long as people really think that it does. And it's all about making a decision to do it.
It is. And, many times people will say to me, well, how long will I have to work with you as a coach? And I say to them, will you make an investment of 3 sessions? 3 sessions. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, so we have a beginning, a middle, and a plan.
Yeah.
And if down the road you feel you want to touch base, that's all well and good. But let's do something. Let's do 3 sessions together. And again, people don't realize that in those 3 sessions, if you are honest with yourself and your coach,
right.
Okay, and not telling the coach what you think the coach wants to hear, and certainly not trying to blow smoke at yourself. If you are honest, you can get so much done in 3 sessions that it can really switch up the future.
Oh, I think it's fabulous. I've developed a relationship with my curious observer, and I like thinking about my self-evaluation with a little bit of curiosity, because I think that there's a little mischief in that. And, I really like humor, and it takes some of the judgment out of it. And it's just like, wow, I'm getting a lot of information and not beating myself up. And that doesn't mean that I don't benefit from working with someone else, but I can't be working with someone else all the time. So I have to have some sort of evaluation tool to use for myself. And I'm getting a lot of information through that. And I find that because I'm not beating myself up about different things, that I can move forward much more quickly.
Seriously. And here's the thing. So when we talk about, well, what does that return on investment look like? Am I going to get the job I want? Am I going to get this I want? Well, the first thing you're going to get is a little bit more peace of mind. You're not going to feel as though you've got this internal struggling all the time, and this internal conversation about, why is this happening, and why isn't that happening, and the self-talk that is destructive and certainly inflammatory. And you find that you're not doing that as much, that you really have more of a clearer vision and perspective of who you are and what you want and how to get there.
Right.
So when we chew the glass of self-awareness, and then we step into the self-regulation or self-management piece, and we utilize some of the tools, whether they are energetic tools or more conventional tools, and we're able then to develop a sense of self that's more peaceful in our own skin,
Mm-hmm.
we will have realized the great realization that comes from us, from that process, that journey, is just how difficult it is to be a human being in the 21st century or a professional adult in the 21st century, let alone a leader of professionals in the 21st century. This is hard work, and it's challenging, and it challenges you right down to your sense of being and self.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can navigate through some of those blind spots, what comes from that is an understanding of just how hard it is to navigate in the 21st century, so that you become that much more authentic and relatable to others. And most people will come to me for help with either personal or professional relationships.
Mm-hmm.
When you discover your own inner compassion and your own inner strength in navigating these hard glass chewing moments, right? Then you have more of an understanding, more empathy and compassion, if you will, and more vision to be able to sense the struggle in someone else. Now, I may not know you, Catherine, and you may be new to my organization, or I'm new to the organization, or I'm new to leadership, or you're a new department head leader.
Mm-hmm.
And I spot you in the hall, and I'm looking at you, and I'm like, well, I have no idea what Catherine is struggling with, but I know struggle when I see it, because I've struggled. And I know what it's like to come out the other end of that. So I can go up to you and I can say, I'm not looking to get up in your business. I certainly don't want to violate your sense of privacy. I get the sense that you are struggling with something. I know what struggle looks like, and I want you to know you're not invisible. I see it, and I'm here for you. And I don't have answers. I just have two good ears and a willingness to listen.
Yep.
And that is the fundamental building blocks of relationship. Now, whether that translates into a personal relationship, a working relationship, people are thirsty for authenticity. We've had enough of glitter and, social media and, the gotcha moment, or the takedown interview, or, the binary division of who's right, who's wrong. You're either with me or against me. We are in search of and have a quest for authentic human connection.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do your own personal work, the return on that investment is your ability to relate to others in a manner that you probably didn't think was possible, but you will be navigating in a world where there are no strangers, because every person you see is in a struggle of some sort. So there's camaraderie on that level, if nothing else, so that other things fall by the wayside, and you approach each other certainly from a more fundamental human level, and then you can build your relationship and layer on this and layer on that and see what fits and see what doesn't. But it allows you to be patient. It allows you to be open. It allows you to be curious and not judgmental of other people's thoughts and ideas. It allows you to say, I never thought of it that way, and I'm not sure what I think about it right now, but I have to sit with it a little bit, so that people can sense your genuineness.
Right.
And in that sincerity, transparency, authenticity, it lies influence. And the ability, if you're a leader, then to influence your staff and make those connections so that people want to naturally follow you in the direction you're taking your company, your department, whatever. And if it's in your personal life, there's a sense of magnetism or attraction that happens. And then hopefully, you're attracting and pulling in the people in your life that are like-minded and like-spirited.
Mm-hmm. The beauty of that too is, the law of attraction is always in play. There's a sub-law of that law of vibration that we're all a part of. And
that is true.
Yeah. And so I think it's important to have some awareness of how we're vibrating, right?
Yes. And a lot of that starts with self-talk. If you constantly have your inner critic going, that, you're never good enough, you don't like what you see in the mirror, I'm stupid, how could I have done that? And you're your self-talk is of a low level of energy, then you cannot vibrate more than that to anyone else. Even if you don't consider yourself a negative Nelly, it kind of comes off your skin. And people, they're dealing with that enough on their own. They don't necessarily want to be around it. And it's just hard to sit with that with yourself, let alone with someone else. So changing up just one little thing of changing up some of your self-talk. Christina Nuff, who is, from Harvard, and I believe she also teaches at Yale, but she's one of the leading thought leaders in self-compassion, and she talks about not self-compassion, not necessarily having no discipline or, about yourself. You're not going to be constantly making excuses for yourself, but you are going to embrace that it's hard to be an adult, let alone accountable, responsible adult in the 21st century, and that you should have expectations of how right you're going to get things off the bat. So there's an understanding of, I'm going to get it wrong until I get it right, but I'm positively moving towards rightness without judging it as you're not working hard enough, and you're just condoning bad behavior and all of those things that are in our parents are in our voice, are in our heads. Their voices are in our heads telling us, work harder, work harder, work harder. You can do it. It's just, you get a chance to breathe within your own energy if you have good self-talk. So you try to replace that inner critic with an inner coach or an inner cheerleader, where you're looking at things and you're saying, okay, you got this 75% right. We still have to work on the other 25%. And tomorrow will be another day and we'll get closer to 80% right and 20% still left to work on, so that you realize that all of life and growth and transformative behaviors, it's a process. There's no such thing as it's done. Thank God I've arrived. This is just ongoing. But if you're easy with your own self-talk, then you're going to find the words coming out of your mouth will be just as passionate to someone else, just as curious and not judgmental. And people will feel that. Brene Brown, in all of her wisdom, says you cannot offer someone something you don't offer yourself.
Right.
So you can say, talk to me, I can listen, or talk to me, but if you can't give good, healthy self-talk to yourself, you're not going to be good at listening without judging others. If you can't take the time for self-care for yourself, you are going to be judgmental of other people who do that. And you see that sometimes in people saying, well, he or she doesn't have a great work ethic. They're always doing this, they're always doing that. No, they're actually doing the self-care so that when they are at work, they are fully present and giving 100, maybe even 110%. And because they can't give that to themselves, they can't give it to others. So I think that's one of the most amazing things Brene Brown has ever shared is you first have to be able to give it to yourself before you can offer it to another person. And self-care doesn't mean you have to join the gym, and it doesn't mean you have to become Buddhist so that you can meditate. And it doesn't mean you have to become a world-class athlete and do meditation. It means that you afford yourself the time to download a book from Audible and listen to it as you're commuting, or you take a walk outside the building for lunch and just walk around the building, or you make time to play with your grandchildren or more family time together. You figure out what feeds your soul. We're such doers that we do need stillness. So moments where we're just sitting on a park bench or in the backyard or at your kitchen table, literally zoning out, doing nothing, just quieting your mind is self-care. You're not being at the mercy of those ruminating thoughts. So, self-care comes in all sorts of shapes and forms, some of it energetic with Reiki and massage and feng shui and all of that, which you and I buy into 100,000%. But there is also, prayerfulness. There is also walking, jogging, shooting hoops, playing bingo, gardening. How many of my friends just lose themselves in the garden? And that is their way of just offering their mind some peace of mind and some good self-care and a much needed break from the demands of the adult life we have.
And I think it opens up more creativity.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, how many, I know nurses now that are going for paint and wine parties, that they're all meeting up at this place and they might have a glass of wine and they're painting by numbers, or they're doing very creative things. I see some of the nurses teaching other nurses how to crochet and to knit. There are just so many ways to do this that, and I don't mean to leave out some suggestions and examples that are more masculine in nature, but these are the ones that I'm hearing the most, that are more of the creative approaches that people are using. And it's almost like getting back to basics.
Yes.
And in a technologically fast world that we have, where, I don't know about you, but as soon as I master some piece of technology, they upgrade it and I can't master it anymore. It's new and improved, and that leaves me out, or they upgrade my Windows to something and now I can't access my email. It's typical of a child of the 50s. But as soon as it just takes away that need to constantly, stay up with things, that we are giving ourselves a much needed permission, not to stop, but to slow down enough and take it all in and breathe and use some real healthy, discerning thinking around, do I want to get involved in that? No. Do I want to get involved in this? I do, but I'm going to need someone to help me. Okay, let me get someone to help me. And do I want to get involved in that? Yes, that's a given. My energy goes that way, so let me spend more time in doing that. So do you remember, Dr. Martin Seligman's advice with Pearl, with the positive thinking, and then engagement, and then relationships, meaning, and accomplishments? It was the PERMA, the PERMA flywheel, if you will. And what he said is that, to have a sense of well-being, which is really being comfortable in your own skin and in your head, everything starts with positive thinking. Right. And if you have a positive thought, it then leads you or triggers you, motivates you to get engaged in your life, not just your work life, but the 360 degrees of your life. The more engaged you are, the more relationships you make. The more relationships, the deeper the meaning of your world. The deeper the meaning of your world, the more you accomplish, great and small. The more you accomplish, the more positive emotions you have. And it's really like a flywheel that you can start to act in. It can become perpetual. Right. And that if things aren't feeling right to you at any given moment, what Martin Seligman said was to take a look at one of those 5 areas: positive emotions, engagement, relationships, meaning, or accomplishments. And wherever you feel you're lacking, tool up, and the flywheel will restart. Right. And I have thanked him for that message, and our applied positive psychology colleagues for that message over and over. I teach that, and I have lived that, and it works.
What's fabulous also to keep in mind is that every thought and every emotion and every action has an energetic value to it. Yes. And so the positive thought is going to invite a positive emotion, which is then going to invite a much more positive chemical cocktail reaction within the body as part of that action as well. And really, the more positive we are, the healthier our bodies are.
That's right.
And that's not a 100% correlation. Obviously, nothing is quite 100%, right? But to keep that in mind, I think is a huge benefit. Yes. And I understand about. I'm glad you brought up about the PERMA and the flywheel concept. Absolutely. Of being able to restart that.
And another one of our fellow professors was Dan Tomasulo, who has done an awful lot of work around the power of hope and optimism. God bless him. And he has demonstrated, how hope. used correctly, not false hope, okay, or not overly positive, or what we call false optimism, right? But good old fashioned legitimate hope here, where you think you can affect an outcome in a very different way than people are telling you it's gonna go. It spurs you to action.
Yes.
And if we know anything about the human spirit, it loves a challenge in a very positive way. And it's a way, once you start to buy into the power of hope and have the healthy optimism, that you may not be able to fix something 100%, as you're saying, but if I can make an incremental 15% difference in something, then I've left it better than the way I found it. And then you let the energy rest, and then you build on that, and then you start to create the momentum of hope and action and healthy optimism. And these things are invaluable for mental health and perspective, and just being comfortable in your own skin.
And if you can't be comfortable in your own skin, whose skin do you want to be in?
I know.
Right?
But we keep looking for other people, like if I could be like this one, if I could do that, if I was thinner, if I was smarter, if I was richer, I was this. It's not everything you have, everything you need is right with you. It's a matter of just making peace with it and discovering the richness inside of you, as opposed to listening to others' opinions or taking so much of what happens in our world to the point as a judgment as to whether or not you're a success or you're a failure. The only person who can determine those things is you. And, and your definition of what your life should be like, and what your success is, and what your contribution to the world is, and what is part of your legacy as you navigate this life, and then, of course, exit. But, I am very optimistic that we can all find that in one another. And I think that's part of the power of coaching, is that that's what you do. You help the person being coached find those things within themselves. They do all the work. You
absolutely.
fix nothing, because there's nothing to be fixed. It's a matter of really digging down and discovering the tools that you have inside that you might not have been acquainted with for long, but it's already in there.
Well, what's fabulous about what you just said is that it's bringing people to a point for them to become aware of them. Right? Being able to work with themselves. They empower themselves. And the more self-reliant a person can be, typically the more resilient and the more adaptable they can be.
And Lord, in this world, if there are two things that are needed, with everything changing so quickly and the persistent uncertainty of what's going to happen next, resilience and the ability to adapt or adjust is paramount, as opposed to being so fixed that every time you have to make even a minor adjustment, it's torture, and you're really just creating a perpetual sense of sadness among yourself, in yourself, where if you're able to adapt and you're able to be resilient, and for me, resilience is learning from the last thing so I can navigate the next thing even better.
Right.
Then all you keep saying to yourself is, well, how are we going to get through this? Well, I frankly don't know, but so far so good. So whatever I've got will work. I just have to lean in and do the work. I keep trying to share with people that in this time of persistent uncertainty, we need pioneering spirit, because many people are like, well, have asked me, when is everything going to settle down? And in order to give them something tangible, I try to share that I don't think things are going to settle in the world, at least until 2030. Now, that's not a crystal ball. It probably is 2035, but 5.5 years is somewhat doable. People can start to incrementally tool up with what they need to do in order to try to find the way to address this persistent uncertainty and need for constant adjustment and change, which are the two things that torment the human nature over and over again. We don't like change, and we don't like not knowing, especially as adults. But we have to start understanding there's no such thing as a comfort zone. And as soon as you say that to someone, it can be very depressing. as opposed to empowering and saying, yeah, I don't need a comfort zone anymore. I found that out during COVID. I am competent. I am confident. I will make myself knowledgeable about something, and then I will master it, and I will use it, and I will work it.
Mhm.
And we become far more empowered, which I think many of us have been post-COVID, far more empowered, stronger than we ever thought we could be.
Mhm.
So that self-care that's needed to maintain that sense of
Yeah.
empowerment and can do couldn't be more needed now,
Mhm.
because we don't want to slip back into not feeling as though we're masters of our own life. Even if we're not masters of the world, what's happening in our life, we certainly can navigate from a place of strength.
Absolutely, and it also comes back to making that choice, right?
It
We have
does.
we have a choice as to what thoughts we choose to entertain
That's right.
and what thoughts we choose to move forward with, and
Yes.
what how we choose to speak to ourselves and other people.
Yes.
And I love what you were talking about at another time about citizenship, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Within an environment, and thinking of everyone within that environment as an equal opportunity citizen, right?
Yes, and in the workplace, you can attain that. You
Mhm.
certainly can. I think right now, really relying on our good self care and understanding we're physically tired post COVID. I don't mean to say that the work of getting through COVID and restarting the planet and restarting our respective careers or industries
Mhm.
hasn't been exhausting. And Lord knows the demands from the top have been maybe just on the sunny side of unreasonable, like, come on, let's get going, let's get going. But, it's kind of like asking you to run 5 more miles after you just did 50 without a break. It can take a physical toll on you. So the self care is absolutely vital to be able to stay in the game.
Mhm.
Healthy boundaries also
Yes.
very, very needed to stay within the game. Leaders have to create healthy work environments to support the good work that their citizens or employees are doing, in order to maintain reasonable expectations of what's going on. But again, I'm going to circle it all back to the individual work that we do with our emotional intelligence, our sense of self, our sense that something is not quite right, and I can fix that, or I can adjust that. I can find something within myself to unstuck myself. Like a lot of people will say to me, I feel so stuck.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm not going to pull you out of that. You're going to pull yourself out of that.
Mhm.
I'm just going to make you more aware of some of the tools you have and the strengths you have
Yep.
to pull yourself out of that.
Mhm.
And once you recognize that, um, you get a sense that's resilience. Well, I pulled myself out of that. What makes you think you can't pull yourself out of the next thing? So this pioneer spirit
Mhm.
of, well, what's going to happen when we get to that river? I have no clue. But when we get to the river, we'll figure it out. Well, what's going to happen when we get to that valley? No clue.
Mhm.
Once we get there, though, we'll figure it out together.
Mhm.
What's going to happen when we get to that mountain? Well, we're either going to find a passage or we're going to make one, but we're going to get over that mountain.
Mhm.
And I think that's the lesson, the positive lesson that COVID has taught so many of us,
Mhm.
and that maybe some leaders haven't quite embraced that happened to their staff. So you need to create healthy work environments in order to support that growth, because there is a richness now and
Right.
more talent to tap into when your staff is feeling more accomplished and competent and confident. You
Right.
want to tap into that. Lord knows you don't want to put that back in the bottle. You want to utilize
That's right. Uh, so, Phyllis, how can people find you?
that. Well, I think LinkedIn is the easiest and fastest way to find me. So Phyllis Quinlan on LinkedIn. Or you can go to my website, which is M as in Michael, F as in Frank, W as in William Consultants, mfwconsultants.com. And you can certainly reach out and contact me that way.
Beautiful. Phyllis, thank you so much. And I have to say, I am thrilled to be a pioneer alongside of you.
Always fun, Catherine. Always fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you so much for joining in today on the You've Got Nurse Series podcast. I appreciate your time, as our time is our most precious commodity. We never get the time back. Using our time intentionally and with purpose makes a difference. Kindly like and share if you find this content helpful. I invite you to explore a bit more of the work, which you can find on my websites of you'vegotnurse.org and theartofselfcraftsmanship.org. It will be my pleasure to hear from you with any questions you may have. Take good care of you and your ultimate mind diet in the meantime.